hunting,
fishing,
cooking,
camping,
conservation,
travel,
gardening,
photography, family.
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 This is the Outdoor Ruhls podcast. Hi, everybody, and welcome to the podcast. It's Mike here. Been another busy week around Outdoor Ruhls. Got a little bit of an upgrade to the podcast studio here at Outdoor Ruhls West. By the time this comes out, Mima and Poppy will be here for a visit with the boys, and we're going to go spend a weekend up on the world-famous San Juan River trout fishing. So we'll probably do a little bit of storytelling around that in the future. Mark and Rachel have been working on a special cooking project that I can't wait to tell you more about. And it looks like we've scheduled a big family reunion coming up at the end of March. Emmit and I are going to travel back to Pennsylvania. It sounds like Uncle Sim's going to come in, and we're going to get together with Uncle Dick and see who's up for what. But we're hoping to do a whole bunch of recording, family history, and other outdoor stuff around that, including those stories that we keep talking about with the Hershey Chocolate Company, which is so important to the area that we grew up in, and the Cornwall Iron Furnace and the Cornwall Iron Mine. So looking forward to doing all of that. But this weekend was also Valentine's Day. And so what I thought that I would do this week for the podcast was throw it way, way back. Looks like episode number 5 was one that we called Romancing the Spam. And it was an episode I absolutely love because it's with the person that I absolutely love. Caitlin and I sat down for that, and she kind of told her life story, and we talked about how we met. And so I'm really excited to bring you that episode so close to Valentine's Day. If you haven't listened to it, please stick with us. It's really a great one. So thanks everybody for listening, and we'll see you again next week.
It just feels like what it feels like to me is that there is another person in the room listening to us. That's how I feel when I'm being recorded.
Well, that's because we're recording this for other people to listen to, Caitlin. I mean, that's sort of how podcasting works. As Kaylee said, it may only be Mimo and Poppy. but
No, but it's weird to carry on a conversation with somebody when in the back of your head you feel like there's some other unknown person listening at the same time.
Right. There is some other unknown person listening. Not at the same time, but hopefully at some future time there will be some other person listening to this. Yeah. All right. So what I'm really excited for with this episode is to introduce the person in the world who is the most special to me. Sorry, Mom. I'm not talking about you. I'm here with my wife, Caitlin. Caitlin's got an absolutely amazing life story, in my opinion. And one of the things about Caitlin is that she really hates talking about herself in particular. And so I think part of the reason that our relationship has worked is because I love talking about Caitlin, and I'll talk with anybody that'll listen about Caitlin. And what platform could be better for that than the podcast? So, Caitlin, why don't you introduce yourself and just tell us a little bit about where you grew up?
I'm Caitlin Ruhl, formerly Caitlin Dodge. I grew up in Milwaukee, Wisconsin. If somebody from Milwaukee is listening, they would say, no, you did not. I actually grew up in a suburb just outside of Milwaukee called Whitefish Bay.
Yeah. And so...
right on Lake Michigan.
Right. You grew up right on Lake Michigan, in a family with a couple of brothers and sisters.
No sisters.
Oh yeah. Right. No sisters.
Hi, Mike. I'm Caitlin. 2 brothers.
Oh yeah.
3, kind of,
That's my family has brothers and a sister.
Yeah.
Okay, so you grew up in a family with a couple of brothers.
Yes. I'm middle child. Got an older brother named Tim. He's 4 years older than me, and a younger brother named Daniel who passed away, and then a cousin named Brian who lived with me for a good bit of my childhood as well.
And, you know, growing up in Milwaukee, that had to be quite a lot different than where I grew up in Quentin, Pennsylvania. Much more of a city, and maybe much, I guess I've always thought that would probably mean sort of much less direct access to the outdoors, but I don't know. Is that your experience there?
No, I wouldn't say it was. Depends how you define the outdoors. If it's just being outside, then I think everybody has the same access. And, we were kind of kids that would just spend all summer outside as soon as we were old enough to be trusted to ride a bike somewhere away from home and come back when we were supposed to. We pretty much spent the entire summer outdoors unless it was raining, and then our mom would begrudgingly let us come back in.
And I like that point. I mean, we at Outdoor Ruhls, I think we define outdoors as really as broadly as possible. It's not just limited to
Deep
hunting
in the
and
woods. Right.
to hunting and fishing and camping and those sorts of things. It's all of it. So outside of summertime outdoor activities, what kind of stuff did you do as a kid?
I did a lot of sports as a kid. If I wasn't doing organized sports, I was playing in backyards, riding bikes, riding over to the beach near Lake Michigan. Sports I played were pretty much anything that had a ball.
But specifically, you had some focus.
Soccer.
Yeah, you played a lot of soccer.
Yeah, I was crazy about soccer.
All the way through high school.
Mm-hmm.
Right. I got to go a couple years ago to Caitlin's high school for her induction into their sports Hall of Fame, and it was really cool. And while you played soccer, it's probably not the thing that you sort of had the most recognition for, right?
What do you mean?
Well, I mean, as far as titles and going on from high school.
Oh, I ran track too, but that came along later. Soccer was kind of my passion, and decided to run track on the side, I guess, as a junior in high school, and was lucky enough to kind of find success in that right away. And then when I went on to college and had some options to do soccer some places.
Wait. What? So when you say you found success right away, what do you mean by that? Specifically, what success did you find?
I ran the 400 pretty well. I won, I won a lot of races.
Right, including. I mean, you won the state.
Well, not my first year.
Oh, not your first year. You didn't win.
I won every 400 meter race I ran, except for one, which was a state track meet my junior year. I lost. I took second place.
This is how Caitlin views her accomplishments, not generally in terms of all the things that she actually accomplished, but in terms of the things that she didn't. So if you didn't catch all this, what Caitlin's saying is she only started running track in her junior year of high school, and that year she only came in second in the state in the 400 meters, and the next year, her senior year, she won the state 400 meter competition.
Yeah, we ran on the 4x1 relay as well, and we won that.
You were the fastest girl in Wisconsin in the 400 meters.
I think I probably did have the fastest time that year.
Again, at some point in the year, it's possible there was a girl in Wisconsin that year that ran the 400 faster than you.
Yeah, she may have been on a different track
but it was not it was not at the state track meet where you won.
Right.
Okay.
Well, I mean, track's all about like numbers, so there's yeah, there's no hiding from that.
Okay. So
fastest is the fastest.
Sure. But in the meet that a lot of people would consider to matter the most, you were the fastest.
Yep.
Yeah. And so then as you're looking at college, you've got some options in terms of sports, right?
Yeah. I had a handful of places, or half a dozen to a dozen places I was looking into, and maybe just a few I was pretty serious about, including Marquette, which was in my hometown of Milwaukee. Both my parents are alumni there, the University of Wisconsin-Madison, and then a couple schools in Chicago.
For both soccer and for track?
Yeah, it depended on the school. But yeah, I was kind of exploring those options and decided to go to University of Wisconsin, mainly because I knew I was interested in biology, and that kind of was the tipping point, I guess, for me. That ultimately I wanted to make sure I got a good academic experience too, and that was the right fit.
Again, I got to poke Caitlin here because she just continues to be modest beyond description, I think.
I'm sorry, this is probably as painful for everybody listening as it is for me.
It's not painful for me. I'm rather enjoying it. In addition to your athletic accomplishments, you were also a co-valedictorian, right? No.
Salutatorian.
Oh, you were salutatorian.
Yep, I got an A- in art my freshman year.
Yeah, thanks, Katie Casper, if you're listening.
So my best friend was valedictorian, so it was pretty fun celebration at the end of our senior year.
So very near the top of your class, very good academics in addition to your athletic abilities. And you did have some options to go other places, including Princeton.
Yeah. I was looking at Princeton, University of Chicago,
right.
Yale.
And I always joke with Caitlin's mom that Caitlin could have gone to Princeton and married an investment banker. And
she really did like Princeton when we went there.
And instead of that, she ended up with a redneck that likes to hunt and fish. So sorry, Niecy.
I think she's all right with it.
Yeah.
She's accepted it.
That's a good way to put it. Okay, so out of all these options, you end up going to the University of Wisconsin at Madison.
Yep.
You become a Badger.
Go Badgers.
Go Badgers. I say that begrudgingly because I do, of course, root for the Badgers, given Caitlin's deep history and being from Pennsylvania. The Ruhl family, the Pennsylvania Ruhls, are Penn State fans. So at least we're in the right division.
I'm feeling pretty good about getting at least one of our boys on the right track.
There you go.
After waking up this morning to Emmit singing the Badger song.
Emmit was singing one of the Badger fight songs when he woke up this morning.
Yeah.
Yeah. So you end up running track at the University of Wisconsin.
Yep, all 4 years.
And then what was your degree track there?
I started out in biology, and I started knowing I wanted to work with wildlife in some capacity, and I honestly didn't really know what sorts of jobs were out there to get me on that track, but I took one semester of OChem. It was really hard.
You didn't like organic chemistry?
No, I don't know. It just, the other chemistry seemed a little bit more intuitive, and for me, I couldn't do OChem unless I just sat, and did rote memorization for hours on end. And if I wanted to major in biology, I would have to take 2 more semesters of that. So after that semester in OChem, I switched to zoology because I figured that's kind of more what I'm interested in anyways.
And where did that interest in biology, zoology come from?
It's hard to say.
Oh, you know what I'm trying to get you to say.
Why are you trying to get me to say anything?
Because it's a podcast, and if you don't say anything, it's going to be really boring.
I mean, like, why do you have like a specific answer in your head?
Well, I don't. I actually don't. There's a couple things I'm.
Well, yeah, that's what I'm trying to decide on what the timeline is. But the couple of things are, I knew I liked being outside, and I liked camping and fishing. I probably went on my first camping fishing trip at between 4 and 5, I think. So I had that interest pretty young.
Yeah, and certainly from the Outdoor Ruhls perspective, we're interested in how people come to this. So specifically the camping and fishing, how did you come to that?
My dad took me. And I don't really.
Yeah, I mean, he took you on trips.
Yeah, my dad made an effort to get us out fishing, probably a handful of times a year. We were fortunate in that I had an aunt and uncle that lived on a lake in Wisconsin for a good chunk of my childhood, and so really easy access to fishing. You could walk down a handful of flights of stairs to the dock and just do your thing. And then as we got older, he would take us on bigger trips, including some Boundary Waters trips and going up to Ontario and doing some walleye and pike fishing.
In all that, do you have any like real specific formative memories about just feeling like, oh, this is really something for me?
Yeah, a couple. The one that came to mind earlier when you brought it up was sitting on that dock at my Uncle Casey and Aunt Patty's fishing one morning by myself, and caught some movement. You know, they had like a dock. They had a little bit of a bay, right? And it was probably, I don't know, maybe 100 yards wide or something at the mouth. And so the dock jutted out right to the edge of the opening of the bay. And I was sitting there waiting for my bobber to go under, and caught some movement and looked across on the hill, and there was a fox just doing its thing, kind of meandering mid-slope across the hill, and it was just bright orange. Super cool. And I remember watching that like, man, that's amazing.
Nice. What would you say, like, in your childhood, like, what was the biggest trip that you guys did, like the most adventurous thing?
My dad took me to, gosh, I can't remember the town, but somewhere pretty far up north in Ontario. And that would be probably the second moment that came to mind for me, in that we flew into Canada, and then we took another flight to get to this more remote northern part of the province. And then we get out there, and there's kind of a little tiny convenience store. And my dad mentions where we're headed, because we then were driving. And they said something like, well, it's 40 clicks up the road. So at that point, we're, as far from home as I've been, maybe, as the crow flies. But driving with my dad in that remote country with giant pine trees around us, I turned to him and said, I think I could live up here. He looked at me like I was an alien from outer space.
The monster he created.
But it was, just something about the quiet, I think.
Yeah. And I gotta give your folks, your dad and your mom both a lot of credit. I mean, they didn't really have an outdoor upbringing, and we'll get your dad on here soon enough, but they tell me about them.
Yeah, they both grew up outside of Chicago, and they met in high school. small Catholic high school, and then went to the same college together.
And your dad told me recently that he didn't, like his family, he didn't have a family fishing mentor. His brothers don't fish. He's got a couple siblings. None of them fish.
It certainly wasn't, I don't know. Certainly wasn't like fishing was a big family event. He was able to do it when he visited his relatives in Pennsylvania. He had an uncle, I think, that did some fishing, but it wasn't, like a big hobby everybody had for sure. It was just something he kind of found on his own and, was able to do here and there.
Right. And one of the reasons I'm excited to get your dad on the podcast and talk to him is, he has a whole different outdoor lens really than almost anybody else that I've ever met, because he founded a marketing firm in Milwaukee, a very successful marketing firm that is focused on outdoor brands.
Yep.
And so he not only does he fish, and now he hunts and does other outdoor pursuits, but he's also got a really interesting industry perspective on the outdoors and all of the things we do, just from a totally different angle than
we'll have to get him on here to talk about it.
Yeah, for sure. Okay, so you're coming to the end of your college career at the University of Wisconsin.
Yep.
Or that part of your college career. And where does your life take the unfortunate turn that leads to me?
Good luck, bad luck, who knows? No, it was good luck. Well, it was the winter of my senior year, and I was obviously working to figure out what was next, and knew trying to get a graduate degree would probably be a good idea, but really was feeling like I needed a break from school, and thought it'd be better to just try and get out there and get into the field and find some way into the work that I wanted to do. I was taking an ecology course, and and some time before lecture started or something, I was walking the halls and saw a flyer, back when they used to have little flyers with.
We're dating ourselves now, but
with little pull off.
You learn
phone
things
numbers and
by tearing a phone number.
I think it did have a URL.
Yeah, probably a website.
Yeah. But it was for the SCA.org, the Student Conservation Association, and
SCA is a government-run AmeriCorps volunteer program for anybody that hasn't heard of it.
Yep.
And it's still active today. It's still the kind of thing that if young people are looking for a way into this field, it's still something, a way to get internships in the natural resources conservation world.
Yeah, so I don't know exactly what it said, but it caught my eye, and so I ripped off a piece of paper, and later on went and visited the website and saw all sorts of internship volunteer opportunities throughout North America, really. And just kept my eye on it for things to apply to. And I think I applied to a handful of opportunities through that website.
And one of those was?
Including native fish restoration intern at Yellowstone National Park.
And at the time, I just happened to be working in native fish conservation in Yellowstone National Park. I had recently finished my graduate degree, and this was in 2009, right?
Yep.
And so we were reviewing applications there. And I will say this before I start the story. I was not single at the time, but we were reviewing applications there, and we hired a a bunch of SCAs every year. And in fact, SCA, I know a lot about it because that's how I started in Yellowstone a few years before Caitlin did. Got my foot in the door and then worked seasonally there and went back and worked full time after I got out of grad school. But we were reviewing applications, and we really liked to hire college athletes because it was a really physically demanding job. We did tons of hiking and backpacking across the park. And generally what we found was that student athletes knew how to manage their time well. Obviously, they were pretty physically capable. So anyway, we get this. We're looking at applications in 2009, and here's one for a woman from University of Wisconsin who was on the track team. That's a good sign. Anybody that can run Division I track is probably pretty physically capable. And I'll never forget this. There was a section on the application that asked about your goals. And Kaylin, do you remember what you wrote for that goal?
Yeah. It was to catch a 50-plus inch muskie in my lifetime.
Right. And so...
Still haven't done it.
Well, we'll get there. And so I remember that standing out to me, and of course in fish biology that stood out to a lot of people that were reviewing those applications. And long story short, Caitlin got an interview, and my boss decided to hire her. And so then it's August of 2009, and you show up to Yellowstone. What? Just I love this. There's this story about Caitlin's arrival in Yellowstone that I love.
Well, I get picked up from the airport by the fish technician there, our good friend now, Kate, and there had been some communication about you're going to be going into the backcountry pretty soon after you get here, and here's some gear you might need if you want to bring it.
And we provided some gear too. I mean, we provided some tents and sleeping pads and some other things.
But I was about as ready as anybody from Wisconsin who's never backcountry camped in the mountains would be. But I didn't really want to let on that was the case. So anyways, Kate picked me up at the airport in Bozeman, and our first stop was at the Walmart to stock up on supplies and make sure that we got the right supplies for a 7-day stint in the backcountry coming that week. So you want me to tell this story?
Yeah.
I really hadn't thought about the food thing. I'm not a good cook. I'm not a good planner. I mean, even in college, I just was never great at making meals for myself and planning ahead. So we get to Walmart, and I really have no idea what I should buy for food that I'm going to have to carry into the backcountry for 7 days. Not carry all of it, but carry some of it. And Kate did offer some ideas for me. But I'm walking around Walmart, and I don't know why it popped in my head, but I thought, oh, Spam. That's something that, transports well.
It does. You're not wrong that Spam does
There's
transport
protein,
well. Yeah.
That's really all I knew. I'd never really heard of, the types of things. I've never been faced with that sort of challenge. So I saw Spam, and I grabbed a whole bunch of it. And I think, fortunately, with some advice from Kate, got some, human food like bagels and trail mix and, other sorts of good ideas to kind of keep me going through the week, but a lot of Spam.
So then it's like your second day, and we head into the backcountry.
Yeah.
And I remember that at dinner that night, everybody makes their own dinner, and at dinner that night, you pulled out this packet of Spam, and myself and some of the other more seasoned people on the trip kind of gave that the side eyeball glance, like, oh, that's interesting. Not, we would carry tuna and chicken and some other things, so like Spam wasn't totally out of the question. It's in a foil pack. It wasn't in the can. It was in the foil pack.
Yeah, a little envelope.
Right. And so then the first night, Caitlin has Spam for dinner. And then the second night. That
was the first time I ever ate Spam. That first night. I was pleasantly surprised. And I think only because the work was so physical and rigorous that I was just happy to eat anything. But I thought, hey, that's not bad.
Especially something with salt and protein.
Yeah.
Yeah. And then the second night, Caitlin makes herself a pouch of Spam. And then the third night, Caitlin also makes herself a pouch of Spam. And I remember Kate Olson finally being like, "You really like Spam, huh?"
Yeah. And I didn't have a choice. I had committed at that point. I just said, "Yep, I sure do."
It was quite a while later when we learned that Caitlin didn't really like Spam that much. She just didn't know what to buy, and we apparently did a very poor job of providing her advice on what to do.
Well, it just took one trip like that, and there were a ton of people there, so I did learn all kinds of options for the backcountry, mountain houses or whatever, dehydrated meals and cheese and cream cheese. And
yeah, and, in all seriousness...
Yeah.
Right. What I think is like important to take away from this is that you are now one of the most seasoned backcountry campers I've ever known. You know everything to do. You know exactly what to pack.
Mm-hmm.
You still do a reasonably poor job of planning sometimes. Every now and then Caitlin will leave for a work trip and I'll find her food bag on our counter.
Yeah.
But anyway, everybody starts somewhere, and you were green, and
I was too proud to ask questions.
Yeah, well, that's probably an important point.
And some advice was offered, but I didn't really try and dig for some more help, and so I had to learn the hard way and eat Spam for a week.
Right. So in the SCA internship was 12 weeks, started in August, and then we're all over the park, particularly the northern parts of the park, doing cutthroat trout and Arctic grayling restoration projects. Really cool work, working with horses and mules and doing a lot of hiking and camping, even in some really remote off-trail places, stuff that almost nobody gets to see. And as you're coming to the end of that time, in that period of time while you were there, entirely unrelated, I became single again, fortuitously.
Before I got there.
Was it just before you got there?
Mm-hmm.
Okay.
Yeah.
You know better than me. But, it's funny. Caitlin said it earlier. Caitlin's family introduced me to a saying that I love and I use all the time now, and that saying is good luck, bad luck, who knows? And I think about it every time something happens that I'm disappointed in or something doesn't go my way. I think about that saying and just how true it is. And this was a perfect example. I had been in a relationship for a really long time, thought I knew where that relationship was headed. And it suddenly was not headed where I thought it was. In fact, it wasn't there anymore. And not long after that ended, I met Caitlin, and we worked together totally platonically for those 12 weeks while you were there. But at the end of that time, we had a conversation.
Yeah, we had got to spend a fair amount of time together as with other friends too, outside of work. So spent some time on the weekends together and got to know each other. Obviously, you get to know somebody pretty well when you are in the backcountry with them for weeks and weeks.
Yeah.
It's a good test.
It is. And so then as your time at fisheries came to an end and you went back to Wisconsin, then you started looking for other opportunities to come back to Yellowstone.
Yeah, I left knowing I wanted to be back for a couple reasons.
Oh, not just me?
You're included.
Okay. I'm glad to be on the list.
You were included. I mean, it's hard not to fall in love. I fell in love with a couple things, maybe including you, but I think at that point in time I was in love with you. But I fell in love with the mountains and the West and the ecosystems there and the wildlife there.
The place, Yellowstone, is an alluring place, especially if you're inclined in the outdoor perspective in any way, and especially in natural resources conservation. It's a cool place to be.
Well, yeah, for a long time I didn't even know what to call what I wanted to do as a career. And there it was, kind of immediately after I left college, and it was Yellowstone, and there was wildlife everywhere, and there were people everywhere studying, monitoring, managing it, and I knew that's what I wanted to do.
So how did you get back?
Oh, I was fortunate in that there was an opening in the Wolf program for a non-paid internship, but working on one of their winter studies. And the Yellowstone Wolf program has been running these winter studies for a couple decades now, obviously since the wolf reintroduction, but they would have a big call for help twice a year. And fortunately, there was a spot open, and I had fortunately done enough to prove myself that summer in those 3 months I had working in fisheries and get some references from there. And got a spot in that winter study program.
And that winter study program was in March, right?
Yes. Yeah. Yep. It started. It was for the entire month of March. So we did crazy things like basically just you were on a team that followed a specific wolf pack all day, every day for an entire month, trying to document every behavior that was observed with the ultimate goal of learning about their predation rates at that time of year.
And then after the winter study ended, you stayed on.
I was able to stay on. There was a gig, a new program, wildlife health program, and so it was a biological technician job that had a variety of tasks related to a variety of species, amphibians, small mammals. And so I was able to do that job that summer and for the next couple years.
Yeah, so you stay on, you work in wildlife health. You do end up going back to the wolf program, right?
Yeah, there were, I volunteered on, I don't remember, maybe 2 more winter studies. And then there was an opening for a more full-time technician position in the wolf program. And I was pretty interested in larger mammals. And so I knew I'd get to do both wolf and elk work in that job. So I transitioned to that side of the building and did that for a couple more years. Right.
And then at around the time that I met Caitlin, or I think December of the year that I met Caitlin, we ended up, I bought a house on the Yellowstone River near Emigrant, Montana, in a little subdivision, not actually right on the river, but about 2 blocks off the river. And when we started living together, that's where it was. And then in 2011, we got engaged.
On my birthday.
Yep. Oh, we got engaged on your birthday. I'm such a romantic.
Surprise.
And then we got married in June of 2012.
Yep.
Yeah. And in that time, once you were back in Yellowstone full time, we continued to do a lot of fishing together.
Mm-hmm.
Montana's got cool walleye fishing, and of course there's all the trout fishing, and we lived close to the Yellowstone River, and we actually had a drift boat on permanent loan to us from some
Two of the best guys.
Two of the best guys. Yeah, they were this amazing brothers, bachelor twin brothers that lived together, and they just loaned us a boat, and we were able to keep it basically our whole time there. Larry and Gary.
Yeah, we tried to pay for it once.
Yeah, they wouldn't take any money. Right.
How would you pay for it when you can use it for free anytime you want?
Right. So kind of an idyllic life that way from a fishing standpoint, and then I kind of worked on you to get into hunting. I didn't have to work too hard.
No, I'd always had a curiosity about it. I was really 50-50 on. I knew I wanted to try it, but I wasn't sure how I would feel about it. So I was always curious about it and always curious to try it, but thought there was a good chance I might start it and, get to harvesting and killing an animal and not like that at all. But turns out I did.
And what was the first thing? Like what was the first hunting that we did together?
I would imagine I tagged along on you archery hunting.
Oh yeah.
Probably in 2010.
We definitely had a successful and unsuccessful all at the same time archery hunt where I shot a whitetail doe, but I probably also should have shot a big bull elk that day. Remember that?
Yes.
Yeah.
Yep.
Unforgettable. I'll never forget that bull elk in the middle of that meadow.
That was pretty cool.
Yeah.
Hung up 70 yards.
But then the first time that you actually bought a license and carried a gun.
I think it was that year. It was 2010.
Well, but what kind of hunting did we do?
I had a
big game
hunt. I had a cow hunt that year, and I had a deer hunt, I think.
No, that's not how I guess what I was asking, though, was it big game hunting or was it small game hunting first?
Oh. Yeah, I think we did some ground squirrel.
Well, what about duck? When did we start?
I don't remember.
So Caitlin and I had this dog when Caitlin and I met, and he probably... I
fell in love with Gus first.
Well, what I was just about to say was that Gus was probably a big part of what attracted Caitlin to me. He was a Chesapeake Bay Retriever that I had gotten as a 10-week-old puppy from a shelter in Billings, and he was the best dog in the history of the world.
Yep.
He was
so sweet, so happy.
Loved people, loved kids, loved to do, anything outside, was just absolutely tough as nails. We duck hunted with him in the Yellowstone River in January, and he'd be totally covered in ice. And you couldn't keep him, we tried to take a shelter and a heater, and you couldn't keep him in there to warm him up. He'd tear it down to get out. As soon
as he heard the duck calls going, he'd tear it down to get out.
So anyway, we did definitely have some. I remember early in your time hunting, we had some kind of hilarious excursions on the Yellowstone River with Gus. Gus's actual name was Atticus. So if I say Atticus or Gus, I mean the same dog. But he was Atticus when I get mad at him.
Yeah.
But anyway, we had one hunt in particular that I felt like maybe was your first duck hunt where we successfully knocked a couple of ducks down, and we had a real hard time getting Atticus in the river. The problem with Gus was not getting him into the river. It was never a problem getting Gus to swim in the river. But for some reason, we knocked some birds down that were all the way across the river, and he kind of got halfway out there and got confused and turned around, and Didn't
he end up having one and then going underwater with it, and it seemed like that kind of...
Oh, he had a bird. He had a bird.
Up.
Yeah, bird dove on him.
Yeah.
And then,
he was a little turned around.
Right. I ended up
waiting out
right.
in 20 degrees.
There was a lot of yelling at the dog that day. But
he felt real bad.
He felt bad, yeah. Anyway, so let's move on then to the story of your first big game hunt. What was that?
That was a mule deer hunt up at Fort Peck Reservoir.
So northeast, kind of north central, northeast Montana.
Yeah, we were going up there because you had drawn a cow tag up there.
Right. I had applied for a cow tag up there, was applying for elk tags up there because Dad, because that was a good place to, it was a good place to elk hunt. Dad had killed a real nice bull elk a couple years before that, and I drew a cow tag.
And you can fish.
Right. Also a great place to go fishing. So we were successful on that cow elk on the first morning. Got that all packed out. And then I kind of remember the rest of that hunt being pretty tough.
It was slow. We saw some deer every day, maybe, but didn't really have any close opportunities.
Right. It was kind of a down year. I mean, we had been hunting Fort Peck. Dad and I had been hunting Fort Peck every year for quite a few years at that point, and normally seeing quite a few deer. And for some reason, that was just a really slow year. And it was also a windy year. So we were there, like 4 or 5 days or something?
Yep. Yeah. Chased a couple deer, but didn't really get close to anybody. And I remember feeling a little disappointed because I had been pretty excited about my first excursion, big game hunting, and just seemed like it wasn't going to come together.
Yeah, and then it was the last afternoon, and I know it was really windy because what we did there, we usually hunted out of Hell Creek, out of the marina there. Some years we camped, some years we stayed at the marina. But we always took a boat. That was kind of the attraction of hunting there, was we'd take the boat and drive around the lake in the boat. And that's what we did when I got that cow elk. But that afternoon, we did not go out on the boat because it was too windy. Yep. So then instead of going out in the boat, we kind of stayed closer to camp to places where we could drive.
Right. We took a short drive, real short, one turn out of camp almost, and parked, kind of a last-ditch effort, it felt like. But as we were getting out of the truck, I remember saying to you, I've got a good feeling about this, and I don't know why, but I did. Anyways, we climbed a few hundred feet up to a ridge and looked away. I mean, I feel like we could see camp from one side, couldn't we?
I'm not sure if we could or not.
Anyways, we looked in the direction that was not camp. And shortly thereafter, you spotted a bedded mule deer buck.
Yeah, and he was bedded in what they call coulees up there, which are like real steep draws. It's the Missouri River Breaks country. So it's like not huge mountains, but there's a lot of really steep draws, and they're kind of loose dirt. They're not real rocky usually, but they can be hard to get across just because of how steep and loose they are. And this buck was bedded down sort of just below the rim of this coulee on a little bench, and he was down there because the wind was blowing over the top of him, so he was kind of laying there where he was out of the wind. Yeah,
there were 2 forks, and he was close to where it forked, but just up one side.
Right, and it was a nice buck.
Yeah.
Yeah, big 4x4.
Nice, no matter how long you've been hunting, I think.
Right. That's for public land Montana at that time. I mean, it was a nice buck. And so we got him spotted down there, and then we
were 800 yards away. I remember that because I remember feeling like I couldn't keep up with you for parts of that 800 yards and telling myself, you ran 400-meter sprints in college, and you can't keep up with him right now. But, yeah, when Mike really wants to move around the mountains, he can.
Yeah, I just don't often really want to move that fast. Caitlin usually moves much faster than I do.
Yeah, I think it took me by surprise because your pace was double.
Yeah,
probably what it normally would be.
So he was laying in a pretty good spot because I knew there was a kind of distinct juniper bush. Caitlin's talking about that split or that fork in that coulee, and so in between, on the ridge in between the two forks, there was a pretty distinctive juniper bush. And I knew if we could drop off the ridge we were on and get low enough that he couldn't see us, and then get into the coulee, we could come up from behind that juniper bush, and he would be about 200 yards.
Yeah, and it worked perfectly.
It really did. It actually couldn't have been a better stock. He stayed right where he was. But like we were saying, it was late in the afternoon, and the sun was setting like right behind the deer, directly behind him.
Right in our eyes.
Right in our eyes.
Yep.
So we come up over the back of that ridge next to the juniper, and I know he should be right there in front of us, and I spotted him. And he's still bedded exactly where he was laying when we first saw him.
Yep. And you did one of those where, I mean, the excitement was there. And you spotted him and you started getting me into position before I saw him. And then it took us a little bit of time to get on the same page and for me to actually locate where the buck was.
There was a conversation, let's say.
Yeah.
There was a conversation that went something like Caitlin saying, "Where is he?" And I said, "He's right there."
About 10 times. Back and forth.
You kept saying, "Where is he?" And like, he's right in front of you. He's right there.
I know, but where?
And from my perspective, it looked like your gun barrel was pointed right at him. And I just thought like you had to be able to see him.
Yeah, I didn't.
Right. But you couldn't.
I feel like we still do that from time to time, struggle to get on the same page with communicating about where things are.
Yeah, I think
we do a much better job of picking out whatever landmarks, but I think we tend to focus in on different parts.
Right.
When trying to give directions.
Yeah, people. And in this situation, we had hunted, the better part of a week, hunted hard, and it's big country, and you can see a long ways a lot of places there, and you end up looking at a lot of deer that are miles away. I was
looking too far and too high and into the sun.
Right. And so in this case, now the deer's at 200 yards, and it felt like he is in our pocket.
Uh-huh.
And he's looking at us.
Yeah, and you'd mentioned that.
Right. He in our conversation, I may have thrown in there that he was looking at us.
As if that makes it easier for me to see him. He's looking right at us.
Seemed like a useful piece of information to me at the time.
Uh-huh.
But anyway, you do see him eventually, and then you're able to get on him and take it from there.
Yeah, I remember struggling with the scope a little bit. I was on him, but just with the relief and the sun and getting, the view shed washed out by sunlight and getting a little frustrated, but then kind of finally settling in, and he was bedded. And I just focused in on where I thought I should put the crosshairs. Like we had practiced, squeeze the trigger slowly, hearing the shot of the rifle, feeling the recoil, and just seeing him slumped over.
Yeah, and so the buck just slumped right down, just like he was stone dead.
Yeah. And I kind of remember being a little bit frozen in the moment, like, whoa, I did it.
Right.
But your advice was to reload.
I think it was emphatic advice.
Yeah.
She knocked him. Didn't knock him down. He was bedded. He just went straight down. And I'll never forget this. Like, I was watching him in the binoculars and aware of the fact that Caitlin is not reloading. And I looked over at her, and she's just sort of there with a satisfied look on her face. And I'm like, Caitlin, reload. And you said in a very cool way, why? He's dead.
I knew it.
Yeah, well, I thought that might be the case too, but I've seen a few big game animals that appeared to be very dead
and
situations.
I have 2 since then.
Right. situations like
now.
that where a dead deer gets up and runs away and makes for a much longer day.
Yep.
And then we got lots of help getting him out, right?
Yeah, Poppy met up with us. He had kind of been following us from the road through his binoculars, knew we were up to something. But yeah, he worked his way up to us. And then friends back at camp came up, Todd and his boy.
Yeah, we were hunting that week with somebody who I hope to get on the podcast soon, actually. My boss in Yellowstone, he's actually still the fish chief there. He is a crazy big game hunter, Western big game hunter, particularly when it comes to elk, but also deer and other critters. And we were up there that week with them. So we'll get Todd on here and tell some Todd cool hunting stories at some point. But yeah, lots of help and got the buck out, and it's a absolutely beautiful 4x4 mule deer that's still hanging here in our house in New Mexico.
Willis.
Yeah. Oh yeah, he's got a name. His name is Willis.
Mm-hmm.
And that kind of does segue us into, obviously since that time, Caitlin has had lots of successful big game hunts and really become an accomplished big game hunter in her own right. And there's lots of stories to tell about whitetails and mule deer and antelope,
elk and oryx and ibex.
Yeah, we have oryx and ibex here in New Mexico, and we will definitely talk about those at some point. But in 2014, we moved from our home in Montana to Santa Fe, New Mexico. I got a job down here still in the fish biology field, and then shortly thereafter, Caitlin, you got a job as well.
Yep.
Yeah, and we're both still in the natural resources conservation field. We're public servants, and we're probably not really going to spend a lot of time on the podcast talking specifically about our jobs. But suffice it to say, we're still in the conservation world. And then since we moved down here, of course, we continued big game hunting. I've done lots of hunting down here, and then taken advantage of new opportunities that New Mexico offers. But we've also had some big life changes since we moved here.
We had our first kid, Robert, in 2018.
And then we had a COVID baby.
Yeah. Mr. Emmit.
Mr. Emmit in 2021, early 2021.
It's changed hunting a little bit.
It's changed all of our outdoor pursuits. Sometimes for the better. Sometimes
overall for the better.
Overall for the better. Created some challenges here and there.
Yeah.
Yeah. But I don't know. They're kids with very different personalities, would you say?
Absolutely.
Yeah. But both really, really fun kids to be around, and they both really seem to enjoy being outside. Robert's been on a whole bunch of successful hunts already. What would you say was his first one?
Well, the first one was when you got your spike bull in archery season when he was 10 months old.
Oh yeah, so September of 2019. We had him at camp.
Yep. You and I both had tags. My dad was there. Our friends were there.
Yeah, we were kind of taking turns hunting.
That was the year I had a fiasco in the tree stand.
Oh yeah. That's a good story we'll have to tell sometime. That's a story about patience or lack thereof.
Right.
But yeah, I harvested a spike bull elk with my bow. Actually, the first elk I ever got with a bow. And Caitlin brought Robert in to that site, and so he was there at about 10 months old.
Yep.
Yeah, but we at 2, he was with us on a successful deer hunt where Robert and I got to stay at the truck and watch Caitlin take a muzzleloader and stalk a herd of deer off into the desert. And she was successful at that. And
he's been on a couple other successful hunts.
Yep. turkeys and oryx and other things. So he's,
Pronghorn.
oh yeah, right.
Yeah.
So yeah, we get him out quite a bit, and there's good fishing opportunities here too. And we haul them all over the place and take them with family, and just spend as much time in the outdoors with them as we possibly can.
Yeah.
Yeah, and that's kind of our story up to this point. We are, as Caitlin said earlier, we are in the Outdoor Ruhls podcast studio west. Which what does that studio look like, Caitlin?
No, it's the kids' playroom.
Our messy playroom.
So we are actually sitting at their little kids' craft table with the microphone here, and have couch cushions on the floor around us, and toys not on the shelves. Yep.
It's quite the setup.
Mm-hmm.
Yes.
Conducive to big thoughts.
The what?
It's conducive to big thoughts.
Oh yeah, there you go. There was one thing that I wanted to come back to before we signed off on this, and that is that back at closer to the beginning of this podcast, when we were talking about why you got into the wildlife biology field, there was kind of a part of that story that I wanted to tell or hear you tell, and I think you know what I'm talking about. What is that?
Well, it was the crocodile hunter, Mr. Steve Irwin. Was definitely a childhood idol for me. He's the one, I mean, I was a guy that ran around in the outback chasing animals and getting paid for it, and just seemed to be living his best life. So, yeah.
Yeah. And I love that part of your story. And I, in some ways, I think it's like a little bit goofy, but then I really, really think that it's not, and that it shouldn't be. I mean, Steve Irwin basically inspired a whole generation of people to care more about wildlife, and what could you leave as a conservation legacy better than that?
Yeah, he was goofy, but he was authentically goofy and passionate, and yeah, took you to some pretty cool places. So
I think you used the word enthusiastic.
Yes.
Yeah, he was very enthusiastic. So anyway, that's I don't know. I think that's a good part of your story and of your journey into wildlife biology.
Yep. Rest in peace.
Yep. Rest in peace, Steve. All right. Well, you got any closing thoughts?
No.
All right. Well, I'm looking forward to future podcasts with you. We've definitely got a good one to tell coming up here soon. We didn't really mention it, but in Montana, we could get elk and deer licenses over the counter every year as residents. But here in New Mexico, it's a draw for pretty much all the big game hunting, and we'll get into that at some point. But Caitlin drew what can really only be described as an epic archery elk hunt this year, and we had a big adventure on that.
Undoubtedly.
Yep. And I am really looking forward to telling that story. We had a friend that was with us for a lot of the hunt, and we'll try to get him on. He's a New Mexican and a big game hunter, major big game hunter in his own right. Then we had some amazing friends that also helped us pack that elk out of a reasonably tough spot. So,
and 8 days of childcare.
Oh yeah, we also had Caitlin's folks watching the boys for almost 2 weeks. So a lot of things to be thankful for. Really looking forward to telling that story. We're gonna keep doing this podcast thing. And I think this episode today will spawn a whole bunch more storytelling about your dad and about other adventures that we've had and about our kids here in New Mexico. So I'm really looking forward to that. For our listeners, you all can always check out kind of everything that we do on our website, which is outdoorruhls.com. And of course, that's the common spelling of outdoor, but Ruhls is spelled Ruhls. So that's our last name with an S on the end of it. And we're also on Instagram at Outdoor Ruhls. So if you want to check out anything we're doing, follow us there too. All right. Thanks for listening. All right, Caitlin. Well, thanks for recording with me today.
Hunting and fishing, the great outdoors, mixing history, laughter, love, and folklore, creating memories with family and friends. These are the trophies that matter in the end. Outdoor Ruhls.